1. I work outside at a beach resort. That being said, most people have their IDs due to travel. They just don't always have it with them. Usually it's in their room or in their car in valet. But if you want to drink and you don't look over 30, state law, I'm going to card you. I had a table of about 12 to 15 people slowly trickle in. I got the vibes that they were going to be pretty difficult. Nothing in particular set off that sense, I just had a feeling. They all seemed to be family. At least I'm pretty sure they were all related. About half adults and the rest were younger. Get the adults some cocktails and had to card 2 of them. They're ready to order lunch, so I ring that in at the same time. Dropped off the drinks, give a mom her special margarita, and she pushes it toward her daughter to the right, and asks me for a second straw. I smile and ask if it's for the daughter, and ask for her ID. After so many times of people not being able to show me their ID, I've started sincerely thanking the ones who do have their ID, because I normally genuinely don't like telling my guests no. Daughter doesn't look older than me, and looks younger than my younger sister who is 21. Naturally, she doesn't have her ID. I get the normal spiel from mom about how she's old enough and to just take her word for it. And that's her daughter. No thank you. Next. I give mom a sickly sweet smile and ask if she still wants that second straw. Well, wouldn't you know, she doesn't want it anymore. I give the cocktail a little nudge back to being in front of mom and apologize. Back at the bar, I recruit all my co-workers to low-key help me keep an eye on this big table for alcohol sharing, and tell them who to watch out for. Not even 2 minutes later, a food runner comes back from taking food to the beach, and tells me she's drinking from mom's marg. That they eyed him up as he passed them and apparently decided he was no one to worry about. Now I'm fired up. I go back to them just as the daughter thinks she's being sly and not obvious, while she's adjusting her straw in her glass of OJ. Girl, I know that straw was just in your mom's drink. Ask if everything is well and let them know their food is less than 10 minutes from being ready. Now the fun part, I call the manager and fill him in. He comes out from the office, so I let him know who to watch since he didn't see the exchange. He finds a good spot in our server station that's hidden from view of everyone outside of it, but he has an unobstructed view of the offending table. Nothing happens for like 5 minutes, so I apologize and say maybe I scared them by going over too soon after the daughter had mom's drink. Their food is almost ready, so I'm helping the expo with their lunch. Expo station is right beside the entrance for our server station. All I see is a quick flash of a blur in whatever color shirt our manager was wearing that day, and I laugh knowing what just happened. We love the drama, so now everyone has stopped what they were doing to gather in the back to watch the show. Manager's at the table. Daughter looks guilty, mom looks mad. Daughter gets up to leave. Dad is bitching in Spanish. Now the food's ready. I help take the food out and pass it out in this awkward situation. I play dumb, make sure everything looks okay. They need something or other. I bring that out as the daughter walks up from the beach and gives her ID to the manager. I'm thinking she's underage and maybe she's hoping the manager won't notice it. Nope, she checks out clear. You really went through all that trouble to sneak a drink, but your ID was a 45-second walk away? Okay. I guess someone mentions she is 23, but her ID says barely 21. That right there is sketchy. Possibly a good fake, but we have no way to find out without calling the cops. Or the family was all off on her age? It happens. Thank God for autograt. The table, even without that drama, was difficult and super rude. I would have happily removed all the alcohol from the table had she not been of age. The manager asked me for their name and room number, to make some kind of note in the resort system. I didn't ask what kind of note. Bet the manager wished he could understand Spanish though. I'm glad I can't because I would have likely just been more frustrated with their table. I just know the basics. 2. I just need to rant here for a minute. So I work at 2 places. One is upscale, fine dining, amazing chef, incredible wine selection. The other is a bar with barefoot wine exclusively and finger food. Guess which one the wedding reception is at? Yep, the bar. I already know when they come in this is a redneck group. It's fine in the area, I'm used to it. And I am accustomed to serving parties from my fine dining place. Well, they come in piece by piece, totaling about 36, with just an appetizer buffet and alcohol on separate tabs. The whole thing is chaos. The bride walks in and I'm already running about 15 alcoholic drinks, and she says she wants the champagne toast right away. What toast? No one knew. There were no notes, nothing was prepared. So I get that started and some dude starts yelling about wanting a pitcher of Miller Lite. Okay, I tell him I'll bring it out right after the toast. So of course he's pissy. At the same time, all the first round of alcohol wants to cash out with 7 separate checks right this second because they have a concert to go to. Of course. In the meantime, I'm also running 4 other tables in the back. It's going well, my co-workers are helping out with some of the food. Nothing too needy back there. So we finally get the toast out, and this dude is bitching where is my Miller Lite. He even throws out that he will just get it from the bar himself. His wife calms him down, and I tell him the bartender is already pouring it. I'll bring it right out. And I ask if there's anything else I can get for anyone else while I'm at the bar. Well, right in the middle of this, one of my guests from the back comes into the middle of the private room and demands his glass of wine. I tell him I'll have it right out. The bartender just had to get another bottle. He tells that the bartender better hurry up and stomps out. The whole table from Miller Lite Dude is silent. Then the tune changes suddenly. Miller Lite Dude is no longer pissy. Everyone at the table is furious at the guest for being so rude to me. Everyone starts hooting and hollering that I'm doing a fabulous job, and he is such a jerk, and Miller Lite Dude starts yelling that I'm the best server he's ever had. And where's this guy's table? He will go and adjust his attitude. In the end, that's all it took for me to go from the verge of tears, stress, to laughing and joking with all these redneck dudes, jumping to come to my defense. As long as I keep their Miller Lite full. I went back to check on rude guest's table, and his date was not impressed with his behavior and looked thoroughly embarrassed. Thanks for dealing with my ramblings. 3. A blue billion years ago, I wore many hats, and one of those hats was a position waitressing at a place in my hometown. I was young and green, but I was a good waitress. One night I get this table, a husband and a wife. They looked like they were going to be easy. Turns out I was wrong. They ran me ragged for the 2 hours they dined with us. They refused to call me by name, choosing instead to call me waitress and girl in a very derogatory tone, like I was beneath them. And even having to talk to me was a chore. I mean, yes, I am a girl, and was then, and I was also a waitress. But I'm also a person and deserve the dignity of being called by my name. Everything was wrong with this table's orders. The fries were cold, the burger was overdone, the second burger was now undercooked. The potato salad tasted salty, I didn't refill their drinks in time. Despite the fact that their glasses never got empty, simply low. I put too much ice in one drink, not enough in the other. The Coke tasted like Diet despite the fact that we actually didn't sell Diet Coke. Rather, Diet Generic Cola. Don't ask me why. Their dessert was small for the price despite being a pre-cooked frozen dessert, so there wasn't anything I could do about it. Also, I was slow. Through all this, I maintained a pleasant, friendly demeanor. I was kind and polite, never letting on that I was tired, annoyed, and frankly pissed off. They ask for the check, and I make sure to get it to them post-haste. They argue with me that certain things are charged wrong. Why is it that expensive? Why are they being charged for 2 orders of fries when they only ate 1, despite having ordered 2? I came to collect the bill folder and the husband asks me to stay. Says he and his wife were testing me and I passed. He explained that they like to go to local restaurants and put on their worst behavior to test the will of their server. Apparently, I was as friendly and personable as could be, and never let on that they were a handful. The husband then said to pick a number between 1 and 100. I chose 20. He told me to pick a higher number. I chose 30. He told me to pick higher since whatever I picked was my tip for the evening. He suggested I go as high as I could, that being 100. Naturally, I was in shock at the revelation that they put me through all they did so they could entertain themselves. Pissed me the hell off. I cleared my throat and smiled and said, "Sir, your bill has listed at the bottom the amounts for a tip appropriate to your bill. We have listed tip amounts for 10%, 15%, and 20%. You may choose from any of those. They left me $50 inside the folder. I donated it to charity. I couldn't keep it. I had been made to feel little and less than for someone else's entertainment. I never saw them again, and I never had anything like that happen again. Even now, years later, it still makes me mad. It's the only time I ever refused a tip. Edit. Details are coming back to me. The man also snapped his fingers and whistled at me to get my attention. 4. A little backstory to start off. We have this semi-regular that comes in. Not enough to be really considered a regular, but enough that when he does come in, we all know. He usually comes in with his wife, who is sweet, but it doesn't make it better. The man likes to make his server feel like shit. Several servers have cried taking care of him. He grills you on what is on the menu and what he's ordering, but if you ask questions, he acts like you're an idiot for having to ask. He'll criticize every little thing you do. Bring him the jelly caddy when he wants jelly for his meal. Oh, that's too much. Why did you bring the whole thing? Only bring him a few packets of jelly and suddenly it's, oh, you don't want to give him a lot, do you? It just goes on and on. And he'll sometimes make comments about how your service isn't that bad. And his wife just sits there and says not a damn thing. So we hate taking him, and it pretty much is Russian roulette when we see him walk in, because whoever is up in rotation is stuck with him, no matter what. Well, one night he comes in. Later than usual, around 11 p.m. to 12 a.m., and it's without his wife. I don't know how his service goes because I'm hosting that night, and a little busy. But later a couple come up to the register, and the man suddenly goes, "That guy's a weirdo. You should call the cops." I don't know who he's talking about at this point, and the woman with him just shakes her head, so I brush it off. Our security guard will also be back in soon, so if something happens, he'll be there to deal with it. Once they leave, the problem regular comes up, and sees our security walking back in, and talks to him in hushed tones. I can still hear what he said, however, and now I'm really confused.
"I think that guy threatened me."
He continues to talk to our security, and I leave my post to talk to the server taking care of him that night. This is what she tells me. The guy had been listening to our problem regular since he was seated at the table right next to him, and was a little drunk. After a while of listening to our problem regular, he suddenly had turned to him and said, "You better tip your server." And somehow our problem regular took that as a threat, and complained to our security guard for a good 20 minutes. Finally went back to finish his food, and after he paid, told the security guard he didn't feel safe going outside, but the security kind of brushed him off and just agreed to stand outside the doors while he walked to his car. Even now I wonder if our problem regular misheard the guy somehow, or being told that he needs to tip his server is really a threat in his mind. Either way, it was kinda satisfying to watch him be the one who felt uncomfortable for once. He hasn't come back in since. 5. My first job was hosting at a mid-end barbecue restaurant and bar, part of a small Florida chain. When this particular location opened, they allowed smoking on the patio area, but that changed about a year in when a new GM took over. This policy change was reflected by clearly displayed no smoking signs on each window, and the patio was only 2 tables wide, so it was legible from anywhere. One day, about 6 months after this change, I sat at a table of 4 on the patio, and they asked for an ashtray. "Oh, sorry guys, it's actually no smoking now." The guy who asked for the ashtray immediately becomes indignant and says, "I was here last week and they let me smoke." I point to the sign and just say, "Sorry, would you like to speak to a manager?" He scoffs and waves me away, and I smile and say their server will be with them shortly. A few minutes later, their server comes in from taking their drink orders, then grabs their drinks and an ashtray from the back of the storage closet where they were kept. "Hey, I thought it was no smoking," I asked, since I was still relatively new and didn't have a full handle on which policies were strictly enforced. "Well, technically, but they're the only ones out there right now, and I don't think anyone will care. I'm just hoping they'll tip more." "Okay, fair enough, even if you're undermining both policy and a co-worker by doing so." 3 hours later, after quite a lot of drinking booze and smoking 2 full-size cigars, while being partway through a third, there were 2 more tables on the patio, and one almost immediately complains to their server, a different one, about the smoker. The server goes over and asks the man politely to put out his cigar, saying it was bothering other guests. The man puts out his cigar and they leave almost immediately after. He leaves a tip of 23 cents. $139.77 total, left $720. And though his first 2 cigar remnants are in the ashtray, he leaves the ash-covered remnant of the 3rd cigar in his whiskey glass, basically coating the entire inside with ash. I didn't say "I told you so" to the server, since their face made it obvious I didn't need to. But the GM was the bartender that night and immediately noticed the cigar when the glass was bussed in by the other host working that shift. The server didn't get into any real trouble, just reminded to follow policy. But at the end of the night, the GM went into the storage closet, pulled out all the ashtrays and threw them away. We still got the occasional smoking attempt after that, but the GM made sure the servers understood it was a hard rule that they couldn't bend, and people were immediately told to stop smoking from then on. 6. It was a busy night, and we had a band playing, so it was hard to hear people. It was only me, another bartender, and my manager. The bar I work at is a large oval with chairs around the whole thing, except for 2 places. One is the entrance and exit to get behind the bar, and the other is where people can quickly order drinks and walk away if there isn't a server available. There is a sign by this place that says "Servers Only," but we all know how well customers read signs. This lady comes up to the spot where it says "Servers Only" and orders a margarita. We aren't a fancy establishment and we don't have a blender, so all I can do is make one on the rocks, no special flavors. She agrees with an eye roll and I make her the drink. She pays, no tip, and then simply stands there and starts drinking it. I politely let her know that she can go literally anywhere else with it, but we need to keep that spot clear. It is also the spot where my manager drops cases of beer that need to be restocked for us to grab. This woman glares at me and asks if I'm kicking her out, and I politely tell her I am not, but she needs to move since it is the spot where we receive beer. She doesn't move. I don't get paid enough to deal with it, so I let my manager know and go about my business. My manager finally manages to get her to slide down a little and all is good, except for the fact that she's still glaring at me whenever I walk by, but whatever. I can deal with that. That is until my manager places a case of Bud Light right next to this woman on the bar, and as the other bartender goes to reach for it, to pick it up off the bar, the lady shoves the case of beer as hard as she can directly into the bartender. Alright, she's gone. We are attached to a hotel, and she later complained we kicked her out because we were racist. This is not the end of this story, though. Sometime in the night a fight broke out. I didn't see it, but I was told a woman came in and sucker punched a man and yelled at him about being a shitty boyfriend. I don't know much else about it beside the fact that the cops were called. So about 4 cop cars are in our parking lot at around 1 AM with their lights flashing and everything. All of a sudden you can hear a crunching coming from outside. Obviously everyone rushes over to see what happened, only to find out a drunk driver has pulled into our parking lot. Since it is split with the hotel, it was a hotel guest coming back from a night of drinking. And instead of turning off the car and giving up, the car proceeds to reverse and back into another lit-up cop car. Guess who stumbles out of the car? Margarita Lady. Since she got kicked out of the bar, she went to another one to get served. But her hotel was the one still connected to our bar. I don't know how drunk you have to be to hit not 1 but 2 lit-up cop cars, but I'm glad we kicked her out when we did. Since the man didn't press charges on the woman that hit him, they only had her to arrest. They came for one incident and left with another. I haven't seen her since, and sadly it wasn't the craziest night I've ever had at that bar, but it is one of the more memorable ones. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spitting Plates 3, Server Stories. Thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I was thinking about story number, I think it was number 3, about the weird couple, and I wonder if that's like a sport that rich idiots do where they just go around harassing the waitstaff in places to see how far they can push them. I do recall similar, not quite identical, but certainly similar stories being told where servers have had to deal with people like this. I mean, those jobs are difficult enough without putting up with that nonsense. Especially when they're essentially taking advantage of the situation, because if it's in a country where tipping is expected, that person is working for the tip. Although I'm sure they're very nice people ordinarily, they're going to go above and beyond because they want to make sure you get the best possible dining experience you can, so that when it comes time for the check, that you're going to bear that kind of service in mind and realise, this was not the bare minimum. I should be quite generous with the tip here. And hopefully that's what most people do. But those wankers in that story? Absolutely terrible. Okay, and with that I think I'll be heading off for now. Give the old voice a rest with some medicinal ice lollies. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.